and welcome to another episode of The Wave, the wonderful Alberni Valley Experience. I'm your host, Don Texan, coming to you live from my living room because we're still in semi self isolation, but not too much. Anyway, I'm excited to introduce our guest today. He's a three-time Army veteran. He's a good friend of mine and a very interesting friend of mine who you'll soon find out why I say interesting as we go on our interview today. So without much ado, let me introduce to you my guest who's going to be sharing his wave, his wonderful Alberni Valley experience. He's relatively new to the valley and he has enjoyed every single day of being here in Port Alberni. Coming from Victoria and moving to Port Alberni has been a wonderful experience for him, and he's here to share his wonderful Alberni Valley experience. So please welcome to the show, Justin Green. Hi, Justin. Ta-da, there's Justin. Hard to believe. You were in Afghanistan for what, 3 times?
Yeah. So I was in the military from 04 until just last summer when I retired medically. 3 rotations in Afghanistan, 07, 10, and 11. And yeah, that's that, brother.
Okay, should I ask, like, what was it like to go to Afghanistan 3 times?
Well, I mean, the PC answer is I retired medically due to PTSD and then, other injuries. But it's a handful, right? For me, there was the beauty of getting to see another people, the heartbreak of seeing how they live, and without getting too political, I mean, you see the moving parts of what's happening over there. But it's quite formative, whether it be destructive or positive, but it's quite formative in the experiences that you get to have, realizing the reality of what goes on in the world, and then just what we convey to people as to what's actually happening. So, I wouldn't be the person I am today without that experience, but at the same time, I wouldn't wish it on anybody to know what that's like. So.
Okay. Okay, thank you for sharing that. I know there's sort of like it's a touchy subject. Anyway, let's move on to something.
You did well.
Obviously, you weren't born in Port Alberni. You're a incoming entity. I would say entity because Justin is an entity in himself. We'll talk about that.
I appreciate that. I'm what the BC or what the West Coast likes to call a transplant, and I'm your classic one from the Toronto region.
Oh, really? Yeah, you came from Toronto. Where were you born, basically? Well, somewhere in Ontario?
I've lived all over Southern Ontario. So basically, you can drop your finger on a point on a map in Southern Ontario, and I've probably lived there or close to it.
Okay, so what brought you to BC? But when you did your tour in Afghanistan, just a little sidestep there, you were already living in BC, or you were still based in Toronto?
During my last rotation?
When you joined the Army?
Oh, I enrolled in Hamilton, Ontario, which was close to the city I was living in.
Okay.
Burlington, Ontario. From there, that saw me going through all sorts of training between Ontario and Quebec. In 2012 is when I made a gear shift due to burnout and, stepped on a lot of toes, did a lot of things. My mental health was falling apart. And so I picked the West Coast. And the outfit I was with at the time, the guys couldn't understand it. They're like, you're an Army guy, you're going to a Navy base, what are you doing? And I'm like, this is the West Coast. Like, are you nuts? Like, I don't care what base I'm on. Like, this is incredible. So 2012, I moved out to the West Coast. Last summer, I retired medically. And then that's when I found Port Alberni. And
yeah, but when you moved to the West Coast, you didn't come to Port Alberni. You moved to Victoria.
Victoria.
So you started out in the West Coast from Victoria.
Yeah, which is clearly a tough move. It's beautiful and lots of things to do. So.
Yeah, I know. Everybody has a beauty, but Port Alberni, it has its own attraction. We're going to be talking about that in a little bit. So you stayed in Victoria for 2-3 years?
No, I was in Victoria for 7+ years.
Oh, okay. Seven
Yeah.
plus years. And then you discovered Port Alberni because,
Yeah. So what happened with the Port Alberni thing is with the whole mental health, I'm looking all over the island. Like I want isolation, but I want amenities. Like trying to find a needle in a haystack. And then I kind of
no,
came
more like a
across,
jewel in the rough.
well, that's a beautiful way of describing it because once I found Port Alberni, you get that classic stereotype of don't move there, it's rough, it's this, it's that. And everybody's the first to poo poo it and tell you why not to move there. And, you know, I look at it and I get here and I'm all of a sudden, well, there's no traffic, there's big wide open roads, there's everything that you need, people are friendly, you know, it's like any city, you're gonna get color, right? You're gonna get some rough around the edges, but you know what, Buttercup, you're gonna find it anywhere, like anywhere. So um, and then, you know, I've been on once before and I mentioned you are at you're at the epicenter of everything in Port Alberni. Like you can get up to anything you want. So there's a quiet living, beautiful scenery, laid back, easygoing life, nice people, great community.
That's great. When did you first come to Port Alberni?
Um, I came
2000.
here. Oh, I've passed through Port Alberni a bunch of times, and
Yeah, I imagine because
even
you're.
then, my buddies are like, "Oh, this place is a dive." And you know what? To everybody out there that thinks that Port Alberni is a dive, please keep thinking that. Port Alberni is beautiful. We love it. We love what we have. So if you think it's a place to poo-poo, please do that, and we'll enjoy our little oasis here.
Exactly. Stay away. No, actually, I think that's a ploy. I think the tourism industry here in Port Alberni puts out a negative image to keep the bad people away. It's sort of like Wakanda forever, stay away.
I can't believe you just made that reference.
I'm a fan of the Black Panther. Anyway, so what was your first impression coming into Port Alberni? So you moved here what year?
Just last summer, 2019 March.
Oh, okay. So you are a recent transplant. It's
Oh, I'm
funny how you say,
fresh.
I would call them migrants or, I came across a few people who say transplant because when you say trans and you stop and then you say plant, okay, you're a transplant
Oh,
to Port
yeah.
Alberni. All right. So just last year. And what was your first impression?
Uh, well, I mean, any move, it's a bit of a culture shift. And, you know, coming from Victoria, I wasn't used to the calmer lifestyle. So that actually, believe it or not, took some getting used to. That everything was quite laid back, and I'm still trying to drive around the roads at 80, 90 kilometers an hour and getting mad at everybody. And you know, it
You don't
took a
do that in
while. And
Victoria.
yeah, and so now I'm that guy where I'm driving 40 or 50 around the roads, and people are looking at me like, "Hey, buddy," and I'm like, "Hey, I'm happy. I'm relaxed," you know. So it was definitely the gear change. The gear change was the first thing I noticed. And secondly, and this is a high number two, is the beauty of being almost anywhere in Port Alberni. And it has that, to me, being an outdoor lover, it has this magical sense to it. So, and I've never lived around mountains. So
Oh,
this
really?
is,
Oh, yeah, you were
I,
in Ontario. No mountains there.
yeah. So the ability to turn around or like walk out one street and Aerosmith is there and we're in the valley and,
Oh,
oh,
yeah, you're in a valley, so it's mountains 360, like
it's
all
heaven.
around.
Absolute heaven to this kid.
Yeah, and you go to other places like we went to, where was that? Mount Washington thing. We drove to Strathcona and did a hike, and,
Yeah.
and you were so happy to see snow. Hmm.
I did that with two of your guests from a couple days ago, Matt and Kenya. I took them up for what I thought was going to be just a quickie hike, like follow the trails, and I didn't realize that there was still 6 feet of snow. Like
Where?
the same place that I had taken you up into
Okay.
Paradise Meadows in Mount Washington, and we're punching through up to our knees. We've got raw ankles, and it was a great go.
When was this? Just recently? Or
About a month
sometime?
ago. About a month ago, and there was still 6 feet
Oh,
of snow.
really? Holy cow.
Yeah,
And
rookie
here in Port
mistake.
Alberni, the grass is growing already.
I know.
So, looking back, so you've been here basically, you're going to 1 year?
About
What
a
month did you move here?
year, 3 months, or something to that tune.
Okay. So, what, you moved here sometime in the
Mid-March.
spring? Yeah, so
Yeah, in
that's,
spring.
I get, that's spring, okay. And you hit the scenes, like you went to the clubs and the pubs.
Yeah, I hit what you would call the scene, I guess, and yeah, quickly decided that with friends and close company was where I better enjoyed my time.
I'm trying to recall when the first time, what was the first time we met? Was it at the FX or was it at Canadian Tire? I'm
No,
not sure.
that was in Canadian Tire, and you and I flirted like out of control.
No, you
Lies.
met me first at the FX. Like you jumped
I
out of your
saw
seat.
you first at the FX, and
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
too shy to tell you that I loved your outfit.
No, you did. You jumped out of your seat and said, "I love your outfit, man," and then you sat down.
Oh, okay, so that's not how I remember it, but I'm glad to know
Well,
that I told you.
yeah, you did. And then we bumped into each other again in Canadian Tire.
Yeah, and that's
And
when we
yeah,
both got all
and I
flustered
will
and
not
weird.
deny I was trying my best to hold back, but I was flirting with you.
Yep.
Well, I was working, so I had to keep calm, but I made a way to make sure I got your phone number.
Yep. Well, it was just, you were such a breath of fresh air to meet somebody in Port Alberni that was so confident in who they were. And that was intoxicating, because it was all of a sudden, here I am, new to Port Alberni, and just seeing you being so bold and out there, I was like, oh, okay, it's safe. It's safe for me to be me. So
Okay, let's clarify for the audience. What do you mean by it's safe to me to be me? Like an army veteran saying it's safe for me to be me. So what are you saying?
well, it's my sexuality's fluid. I'm not particularly a label guy, but I'm a strong believer, and it's you're free to love who you want to love. And to me, for label's sake, like I'm a bi male, and you know, even in the military, I had such fear around being who I am. You know,
Mhm.
I believed, it wasn't imposed, but I believed that I had to act a certain way. Um, and a lot of the jargon and a lot of the ways that we spoke at the time weren't conducive to being genuine and being yourself. Now, it's not to say that the people that had the strength to be themselves, that they weren't supported, but if you were unsure of yourself, and I was so insecure at the time that I didn't feel that it was safe for me to own who I was. And so coming here, hearing the reputation, you know, I loved Port Alberni. I was attracted to it. But then to meet you, it was like, all right, double win. You know, okay, here I am. Here's this beautiful place. And here's this person that is absolutely free to be themselves. And the other comedic thing is talk to any bloody person in Port Alberni, and if they don't know you personally, they know of you. Like,
Are you kidding? No, I know that. Well, I am glad that we met, and I'm glad that you are enjoying your wonderful Alberni Valley experience. So now I'm going to ask you, give me your top three wonderful Alberni Valley experiences, aside from meeting me.
um, oh, okay, be like that, because I would put that up there.
No, I'm fine. Some other thing, like, whatever
Yeah,
comes to mind, your top three wonderful Alberni Valley experiences living here for a year, over a year.
I think first and foremost, my answers are biased because my answers all involve being outdoors. But well, it's tough. The three things that I love to do most that are near Port Alberni is hitting up Sprout Lake with friends and getting to go out and just soak up some sun and getting little hikes around and seeing the petroglyphs. The next one would be Wiener Falls, which I just discovered the upper falls and getting out there and messing around on the trails. And then the lookout, not the lookout, sorry, hole in the wall. Hole in the wall blows my mind every time, you know, you get out there, you see the hole in the wall, but the way that the ground moves and, but Port Alberni has so many different hiking trails and loops and everything. And that's what I love. As an outdoor buff, I love being able to go out and just soak up nature because it's a grounding space. So,
well, I'm glad you found your way here.
Because I got about 15 things. So
I know. Well, I'm glad you found your way here and you're enjoying your wonderful Alberni Valley experience. Now I'm going to, like, what are you involved with? So you're basically retired. You're a retired Army veteran. And
semi-retired.
Semi-retired. And so what do you spend your time, aside from your outdoors, climbing mountains, hiking, do you surf?
I boogie board. Because of the amount of concussions I have, I go full man-child, and I boogie board, and I squeal and giggle the whole time.
And you ski?
So I snowboard, I rock climb, I boogie board, I'm into mountaineering, I'm into rock climbing, I'm into mountain biking, make music in my spare time, break my Jeep.
You were, what did you call yourself, an audiophile? Like you collect all this old audio equipment, like big ass speakers and shit.
I have a small addiction with speakers. There's something like 40 or 50 pairs of speakers in this house. It's a little nuts, but I love it.
Oh yeah, of course you do you, and you enjoy it. Now, one thing we enjoyed recently, so I was going to ask you about what are your projects and involvements and stuff like that. So just recently we had a fun time when you launched the first ever
Dunsmuir
Drag Race. Okay, let's talk about a little bit about that because I had a lot of fun. So how did that come about? What was your thoughts on it and stuff like that?
So my roommate Kimmy actually is a really wonderful person, and she comes up with these ideas here and there, and she had approached us on the idea of we should do something for Pride. And the beautiful thing about that is, you know, Kimmy's basically a straight woman, and yet because of this household and what I want to make like as a space for people, she embraces that and owns the fact that there are queer people that live here. And so she's like, we need to do something for Pride. And between a little back and forth, you know, we came up with, well, maybe let's do some drag. And we could record that because we have a little group for positivity on Facebook. And the next thing you know is that became like a drag race idea. And then we thought that we could have some games in between too. And I also sort of have like a small obsession with RuPaul's Drag Race. And so Kimmy watches that with me. And then when Matt and Kenya moved in, you know, like we'd all sit down and watch it. And so it was just this natural evolution of, you know, a way to show love and support and put it out there. And we'd also give people a smile. And it took off and it was great.
It was. And I had a blast. Like, I couldn't imagine. That was my first time going to the drag side. Not the dark side, but the drag side. And it's catching on and it's like getting bigger. In my mind, when you showed me the stuff that Kimmy did in your place, like there's this little clock that she painted rainbow colors, and then your house numbers are all rainbow colors too. And I'm going to invite her over to do my house numbers in rainbow colors.
Aw, beautiful.
I am officially dubbing Kimmy the queerifier.
Man, whatever you want to.
Like Bernie's queerifier, and I'm going to interview her on the show one of these days.
And she's such a beautiful and supportive person. She likes her behind the scenes stuff, but yeah, she's such a huge supporting member.
So you have quite a nice little nuke of friends in this isolation thing. Like you call yourself the Dunsmuir family because your
We
house is
do,
in
yes.
Dunsmuir. So tell me a little bit about the little Dunsmuir family that you have set up.
Well,
Such a unique concept.
it really just boiled down to looking at what my needs were and looking at what it is that I needed in life. And so when I put the ad out for my place, um, I wanted to make sure that I was bringing like-minded people together. And the biggest thing that I had on my advertisement was that it was LGBT friendly. I wanted people to know that if they came to this home, that they would have a safe space. Especially with my background, I never felt as though, or I didn't believe, I just didn't think that I was safe. So I wanted people to have that. And then uh, my first roommate was trans. My second roommate, just a normal person. Then Kimmy came in, and man, oh man, what a shift. All of a sudden, there was somebody that was emotionally invested in people and was emotionally invested in seeing the parts of who you are and bringing them to life. And so she became such an integral piece of the house and really helped things blossom. And then during COVID, Matt and Kenya came in here, which is the couple that I'm with, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It just kept blossoming. And so we try to put a lot of intention behind supporting and touching base with one another and seeing how things are going. And it really does have a family feel. Now, with all family, there's ups and downs,
Of
uh,
course.
but we do our best. And so it's a little support network. And Kimmy's been there to pick me up a number of times as I've dealt with mental breakdowns or things like that. And so it's really nice to be the only person in my family on the West Coast and to be supported by my family members, which aren't technically my family, but they're just as supportive, and in many cases more supportive and more tentative, or
Yeah, because
more
your family right now is back in the east, right?
Ontario.
Yeah.
All
So
of my
how
family's
many
back in
you have
Ontario.
siblings somewhere? I was looking through the pictures of your mom and said, "Oh, is that his brother or is that his sister?"
So I have what I've coined a double divorced family.
Okay.
And so I have two moms, I have two dads, and from one marriage, I have two stepbrothers, and from another marriage, I have my stepsister. My brothers, in which I grew up with, and then my stepsister I saw periodically.
Okay. But here you found like your own family here in Port Alberni.
I have, and it's been really, when you look at it being a year, that's been a really quick process to find a home. I went through a separation moving here, and then to have all of this come together. So it's been integral, beautiful, and I'm grateful for it.
Okay, so it seems you're having a blast. Now I'm going to ask you, what would you like to see happen in your lifetime here in Port Alberni? I'm sure many people are, there are welcome changes. There have been a lot of
Mm,
changes. I just interviewed a professor, retired professor from Vancouver Island College, and he's been here for 30 something years,
okay.
and he has seen the last 3 years have been a nice positive change for Port Alberni, and he sees things that are happening, and he wishes things were happening. From your point of view, what would you like to see happen here in Port Alberni while we're still alive?
I think probably the big three for me would be uh, a bit of a paradigm shift towards uh, our homeless, giving a bit more space to them, compassion and understanding, because that doesn't happen to people overnight.
Mm-hmm.
I've done work with that for about 2 years prior to moving out here. Secondly, I'd love to see an evolution of our two main drags, so coming down Johnson and on Third, of a little more care and consideration into Port Alberni. I think it's a beautiful place, and I think that we could do a little bit more to show that we all love and enjoy and embrace where we live. My third one I forgot for some reason because I got a little mentally wrapped up in the aesthetic, but and maybe just continue. I guess the third one's more of a subjective one, but it's more or less opening up people's minds, and we have such a diverse group of people, to the young ones that are still in school and to the old blood that has been here in the height
Mm-hmm.
of Port Alberni, and I'd love to see some flexibility as the new ideas come in, and just the older blood, and just kind of taking a step back and a breath and just going, okay, I might not like your idea, but does it have value? And I'd love to see that as Port Alberni grows, because I've watched and witnessed and encountered some dialogue where people are a little set in their ways, in which we all are. But I'd love to see people take a breath and go, Don, I really don't like your idea, but okay, what are you bringing to the table? And so that, I think that would be my third.
That's very profound. And yeah, I do agree that the old people, they had their time, and just be welcome, just be open. It's not like we're going to force our way in with our ideas, but there is room for change and there is room for improvement in any
Yeah.
city, in any situation, right? So, anyways, you mentioned when I was there where we were doing the drag thing, you mentioned something about the gift ninjas. What was
Oh,
your
yeah.
Yeah? What's that
Do you
about?
want me to elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure, sure. That's very interesting.
Okay, so snapshot of history. COVID kicks off, and Facebook was a great platform for people to start to come together to support each other. And so, just some people I had recently been on a hike with and people I identified as close friends, I threw them all together, and you were in there for a bit, the PA posse.
Hmm.
And so it just became this spot where we could share uplifting videos or comedic things for the day. And, there was debauchery, there was heartfelt, there was silliness, there was, it was diverse. And someone, I don't recall who, had brought up that people were doing like booze ninjas or this or that. And so this idea just kind of unfolds inside of the group that, hey, do we want to do gift ninjas or something to that tune? And a mutual friend of ours, Bronwyn, took it a step farther, used the online platform Elfster, and so we all put our names in, we all put our addresses in, we all put things that we're interested in, and so the next thing you know is, because we put the title ninja in there, this group is in love with their puns and their humor. So what you started seeing was, all of a sudden, a rap on the door followed by somebody with a mask, and my ninja in particular had a ninja sword on their back, cloaked in black, running down the street to get away. And yeah, it's been this slow trickle of random moments in time where these gifts of consideration are just going out, and it's a little something to lift people's spirits and provide a giggle. And so then we share our pictures, and we post silly pictures of us stripped down and bearing all our gifts, and the PG-13 versions of, hey, thank you, here's a laugh, and thank you for making my day. And it's been a good blast.
That was such a cool idea.
It was.
Well, you mentioned something about this. The next question, you mentioned something about this, like already. Like, what would you say to people who say negative things about Port Alberni? Because everybody will say something negative about something or somewhere or someone. What would you say when you hear somebody saying negative things about Port Alberni?
Well, I have two answers to that. And I mean, my first and favorite answer is thank you. Thank you. Please keep it up. Like, really, 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 please keep it up. Because I love Port Alberni. But in all seriousness, you take the good with the bad, and you're not going to change everybody. And unfortunately, if somebody feels that way, you can share your experience with them, and that's fantastic. And maybe you'll be able to help them see it differently. But to the people that have negative things to say about Port Alberni, well, I just hope that they have a better experience maybe next time, or maybe they meet some of us and they'll realize, hey, there's people that like to let their hair down and have a laugh and a good time. I aim to change no one's mind, but maybe show them that the next time they can have a better experience.
Well, in my part, I remember one experience I had with you. Well, like we were dressed up in our fur coats because it was winter.
Yeah.
And we walked down in our, almost drag outfits down
our
to
heels
the
on and our fur coats.
And I was kind of scared because I am in the hood. I live in the hood, right? I mean, I know where I live, but I have never felt unsafe. Well, even if I did, I'm with an Army veteran, so I have sort of like a bodyguard. But we did not have any problem. Actually, we got some nice comments and very friendly remarks and stuff like that.
And I even accidentally bumped into somebody, and I heard a statement from the person, which wasn't the kindest. But on the same note too, in the other cities I've lived in, I've been attacked.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. And so the fact that you and I wasn't even ever dressed up as elaborately as you and I were that night. And so that was quite comforting to me that you and I were holding hands, walking down the street, dressed in our heels and our fur coats. And, I bump into someone accidentally and we continue on our merry way.
Oh, I saw the comment of your mom on our drag the post I did on the drag race thing. She said, "I still want your fur coats."
Yeah.
Your mom.
She's not getting it.
Well, no, I'm still wearing it next winter. Okay, my favorite part of the interview, my rapid fire questions. Are you ready, Mr. Green? Here we go. Living in Port Alberni makes me feel like
calm and content.
Calm and content. Good answer. Okay. Question number 2. The people in Port Alberni are
colorful and diverse.
Okay, that's a new one I've heard. Okay. In a word or a phrase, I would describe Port Alberni as
my Mecca.
Oh wow, really? Whoa.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were a Muslim. Anyway, isn't it Muslim? I'm kidding. All right, next. When people ask me what it is like to live in Port Alberni, I say
friggin' fantastic and so underrated.
Okay, cool. Nice answer. All right, next. 3 places I would take my visitors to show off the sights of Port Alberni. Well, you did say a hole in the wall.
Oh yeah, Lookout, Hole in the Wall, Nome Trail, Wiener Falls, Sprout Lake. I told you, I got a list of like 15 places.
Okay, now you said Wiener Falls. There's a debate going on. Is it Wiener or Weiner?
I have no idea, but you're talking to somebody that's got the maturity of a 5-year-old, so it's Wiener.
Okay, fine, it's Wiener then. Because I was interviewing another lady, she said it's Weiner. Whatever. If you're German, it's Weiner. Or is it Wiener if you're German?
Do you?
All right, here we go for the final question. Complete this sentence, Mr. Green. I love living in Port Alberni because...
Awkward pause. Awkward pause.
Dramatic pause.
Pause. Because of the people, location, and beauty.
Okay, there you go. I'm glad you're having a blast and you're having a wave, Justin. Thank you for taking the time to be with me on this episode of The Wave. The wonderful Alberni Valley experience will continue. But for now, we have to say goodbye. We'll catch you next time on The Wave.